Welcome to Learning Photography with Duck. Here's your host, Duck.
Alrighty, a little bit of a rough start there with the microphone, but I think we're all good to go. Thank you for joining me another episode of Learn Photography with Duck. I am again your host, Duck, and today we have Q&A. So I hope you guys have your questions. I'll try my best to answer them the best as I human possibly can. So anyway, before we do that, I just want to remind everybody of a couple events that are coming up. I talked about them last week, and they are on Meetup, but I don't think Jesse has actually activated the Meetup event. It should be going live probably tomorrow. All right, because everything's all written out, everything's ready to go. Basically, it's on Thursday, April 21st at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll be shooting right here in my studio. I have a model coming in. I'll be using small portable flash, speed light. And I'm going to just walk you through three different modifiers. One with the, just speed light by itself. One with an umbrella, which is fairly inexpensive. Anybody can get a hold of one of those. And in a softbox. And we'll walk through all the, variety of setups to get you started. So if you are unsure about working with Flash, this might be a good intro class for you to attend. If you're in the local area, that Saturday on the 23rd, we're going to meet downtown Milford on the Milford Green for a fun little event that I call a photo hunt challenge. And basically you pick a challenge card out of a deck. You have whatever time limit we set, you have that time to go ahead and complete the challenge. And then we all reconvene and share our thoughts and laugh at each other's images. So hopefully, if you're in the area, you can join us. Sorry, Lihia. You just got to move into the area. That's what it is.
Opportunity.
Either that or I'll have to come down your neck of the woods and visit. So, all right. Anyway, that's what's coming up. Oh, I do have an ask. Now that the warm weather is getting here, I want to know, what is it that you guys are interested in learning? In particular, what I'm looking to do is, in conjunction with Milford Photo, put out something that's a little bit more advanced, maybe something that Milford Photo normally doesn't produce, that you might be interested in. I have a couple ideas that I've been passing by Jesse, but what I like to know is, what are you guys interested in learning? What kind of workshop would you be interested, whether it's a live workshop or whether it's a Zoom workshop? If you have ideas, go ahead and direct message me, or you can text me, or, send me an email. But let me know what you guys are interested in learning. Maybe something that, you're having problems with, that you just quite can't find online the answers to, or whatever it is. Just let me know. I'm looking for ideas. So anyhow, that being said, today is Q&A. So hopefully you guys have some questions, and, just blurt them out. Whoever has a question, it could be on editing, it could be on camera, it could be on lighting, whatever you want. Anybody got questions?
Sure, I got a couple.
Sure. Awesome.
Well, I had in Lightroom under the updated version of the they call them the masking tools, and I didn't realize why they were calling them masking tools until I played around a little bit, and I saw that there's an object selection tool in there now that never used to be there. But the other thing that I notice is that sometimes when I open that panel, I get the little pop out that shows almost like an extra history panel of the what brush I'm using or gradient or whatever. But now it hasn't been doing it lately. The other thing is that sometimes the panel will open and I don't get the option to even choose the brush or gradient or whatever. It just opens up to the sliders. So it's been kind of acting kind of strange, and I don't know what that's about.
Okay, let's see what we got. All right, let me switch over to desktop view. All right, so you go into the mask.
Right.
Okay. Actually, go ahead. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Let me get, let's see, full screen. Oh, let me go back to chat so I don't. Okay, full screen, windowed. There we go, windowed preview. Okay. Share screen, windowed preview, share. Okay, and Lightroom. Okay, so so you go over to the mask tool, right?
Right.
You click on it,
Right.
and it drops down this. And you said sometimes what?
Sometimes just the sliders panel opens, and I mean, if there used to be the old way, there was a place where you could say like new or start a new tool or whatever.
Oh, yeah. So
now
yeah,
there isn't that sort of thing, and so now sometimes I'll hit on the mask little icon there, and I just get the sliders without the tool selection coming up like we have right now. I don't know if it's just, if I already was in a tool, then it just stays with that one until I go back to another one, or what happens?
yeah. Once you activate this panel,
Yeah.
it kind of stays there, so you can switch from image to image, and it's going to keep that panel open. I found myself doing that a couple times, forgetting that I opened it, doing what I got to do, and then I switch over to another image, forgetting that it's still open, and then it's like, oh, the frustration. The new setup is a little clunky, in my opinion. It used to be you can just select the circular or the gradient one, and it immediately you can go to work. Now it tends to be a multi-step process. All right, so think of it as opening up your masking dialog, and then you have to choose which one you want to use. All right, whether it's linear, gradient, or brush. Okay. Once you make that selection, then you get the pop out.
And for some reason that hasn't been showing up for me, like in the last couple of days when I go to select the tool, then it doesn't do that little pop out thing. And I don't know if that was in my window view someplace that I can reactivate that, or I'm not sure why it disappeared on me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's doing it routinely for you.
Yeah. So you can hide these.
Maybe
All right.
that happens somehow.
Yeah, I don't find that happens to me all too often. But let's see, if I go ahead and, all right. I don't know if you can see it. Let me see if I can zoom in. But right here is a little toggle. It's very similar to the toggles that you would find in, all the other panels where it allows you to show or hide. Okay. If you toggle it to hide, it kind of kicks that window out of view. All right. I don't think that's probably what's causing your problem. All right. But in order to bring it back, all you got to do is just click on any one of these. All right. And it'll bring it back. All right. Okay. And then you just make sure that you click it back on. All right. Like I said, I don't think that's the issue. All right. I can't think of any other. All right. I don't know if you're familiar with shortcuts. All right.
I haven't used them very much, but I know they're in there. Right.
All right. If you inadvertently hit the letter M for mask, all right, it may disable it for you. So I don't know if maybe by accident you hit that key.
I think I accidentally.
Yeah. So
somehow.
Yeah. So if you find that, just hit the letter M for mask. All right, which is a quick way to getting into the mask tool. All right. Okay. And then from there, just you can reactivate it. Okay.
Got it.
So hopefully that's the solution for you. Again, without really knowing exactly what happened, that's my best guess.
Yeah, I'll play around with it and see what I can come up with.
Yeah.
But another method would be reset all the tools again to default.
You can. I'm not a big fan of doing that unless it's like a last-ditch effort. Because if you spend time, as you work, if you spend time getting your interface the way you want, the last thing you want to do is just undo everything that you've worked for and then having to restart all over again and getting your interface looking the way you want. So that I would say last ditch effort. Definitely last ditch. So, but yeah, so it used to be that the linear gradient and the circular gradient and the brush were all up here on that bar for your local adjustments. All right. But because they've expanded it, to include other tools, they can't just keep adding tools to that little bar. So that's why they decided to make it a drop down and kind of combine all the masking tools into one section. So, but if you are familiar with the shortcut keys that were available before, they're still there. You can still access the linear gradient with the letter M, the brush tool with the letter K, and all the others, they still work the same way. So personally, I never used shortcut keys for the masking tool simply because they were right there. They were very accessible. Now they're just hidden one layer down. So, but anyway, yeah, that's my only beef with it. More steps, but hey, there's only so much you can do with limited UI space, I guess. All right, good question though. So, other questions? I see Bonnie's in the house. Hi, Bonnie. Lihia, I know you had a bunch of questions. Come on.
Oh my goodness, there's so many that it's kind of embarrassing.
Don't be embarrassed, because let me tell you something. We're all in the same boat. We're all learning, and just like you may be afraid to ask questions, there are other people that are afraid to ask questions and hoping somebody asks the question they want answered. So somebody needs to.
Okay, since you asked, actually I do have one.
Okay.
The other day, I have an image that I basically crop very tight, but then in cropping, I lost half of the canvas. So what I wanted to do was to expand the canvas.
Okay.
So actually, I need to expand the canvas so that way it doesn't look that cropped. So I need to give it more space. And I know the theory of applying the canvas. I just don't remember how to do it.
Okay.
It's a layer behind the layer, but then this is for me, my difficulty is like when you switch from black to white and white to, when you switch it is when my problem is like, I don't remember how to do it and I get totally confused.
All right. So with masking, you say, when
Yes.
you apply a mask. Okay. All right. So.
Okay. In this image, suppose you crop it and you just leave the computer as your image, and the rest of it is gonna go away, and you want everything else to be black.
Okay, so I want to mask it or I want to crop it?
You want to crop it, and
Okay.
then you want to expand the canvas.
Okay, so, all right. When you crop, there are a couple of things that you need to take into consideration. All right. Now, one of the things that we have to consider is what's called working non-destructively.
Right.
And what working non-destructively means is that any changes that you make need to be, I don't want to say temporary, but because they're not really temporary changes, but they don't destroy the original pixels. All right, so we want to work so that we're modifying the pixels, but we have a way of undoing it and getting back to our previous state. And there's a couple ways we can do that. One, by building up layers and using layers to modify the underlying pixels. All right. When it comes to cropping, though, when we are cropping in on an image, we are essentially saying, hey, all these pixels that lie outside of our crop, we don't want to see them anymore. All right. But the problem comes where it's like, you know what? I think now that I'm working on it, I need to gain a little bit more of the area that I cropped out. All right. So there's two ways of doing this. All right. And the one thing that you have to look for is right up here where it says delete cropped pixels. Okay. You want to make sure that that is unchecked. All right. So now I can take my crop tool. All right. And let me make it clear here. And I can crop in, you said crop into like, we're just going to crop into here. All right. And I hit OK. Now I'm cropped in. And you say, you know what? Now that I look at it cropped, I need to give it a little bit more room. All right. So now I go back to my crop tool. Oops. And I want to uncrop. Notice how I can now see all that area that was previously cropped out. All this area around it is now it's visible again. Okay, because I have that delete cropped pixels checked off. Okay, so let's go and original ratio. Oh, come on. Why is it not giving me all clear? Original ratio, there we go. Oh, that's not my original ratio. What the heck's going on here? All right.
Okay.
I don't know what's going on. All right. So let's just take that in. All right. Now, let's say I inadvertently check. All right. And I go to my crop tool. Come on. All right, and I said I'm going to just crop into this area. All right, that's checked, and if I hit OK, what's going to happen is it's going to delete all the area outside it. Okay, and now if I want to gain it back, notice how there's nothing there to gain back.
Right.
Okay, I cannot gain any of that because I basically told Photoshop, I don't need those pixels anymore. Go ahead and get rid of them. All right. So that right now I've worked destructively and it's destroyed my original image. Okay. Once it's gone, it's gone. You know, you have to kind of relaunch the image from the start again. Okay. So be aware. You don't want that checked unless you're 100% sure you want to lock that final crop in. Okay?
Right.
So let me revert. Okay. Now, if you need to expand your canvas for some reason, all right, so let's say I wanted to add a border around my image. Okay, we can go to image, canvas size, not image size, canvas size. Okay, image size will just take whatever image is there and resize it up or down. All right, canvas size will keep the image pixel per pixel exactly the way it is. All right, but you can add or subtract pixels from it. Okay, and the way the canvas size works is you can set whatever point is going to be your anchor point. Most often you want it right smack dead center. Okay, and you're going to give it however many pixels. All right, you can either work by percentages, you can go by pixels, you can go by inches. All right, and all these other selections, centimeters, millimeters, the whole 9 yards. Okay, typically I'll be using pixels. All right, and it's just a matter of doing a little bit of math. Let's say you want to add 100 pixel edge all the way around. So my width is 5616, okay, If I make it to 5716, it's going to add 50 pixels on each side. Okay, so remember that it's going to split the difference between left and right and top and bottom. All right, so height is 37. I'm going to make that 39. Okay, and then down here at the bottom, you can choose how you want it. You want to use your foreground color, your background color, white, black, gray, or some other color. All right, in this case, I'm just going to make it white, and I hit OK. Oh, what the hell? Oh, did I? Oh, I think I...
You accidentally had an extra digit.
I think I had an extra digit. Oh my goodness! All right, that's let's try that again. Wow, canvas size. All right, so 56 will be 58. 37 will be 39. Okay, no extra numbers. All right, there we go. There we go. That looks better. Okay. So that's how you can resize your canvas. All right. So where this comes into play is if you want to, for example, if you want to create an image that's going to be printed on an 8x10, all right, and you want that little bit of a white border, okay? So this will manually, you have to actually go ahead and set, how much of white space you want, but this will manually add that little bit of white space, and then you can export that to be able to print on an 8x10 with a little bit of a border.
Yeah.
Okay. Does that answer your question?
It's okay now.
Okay.
Thank you, yeah.
This has nothing to do with masking, though, okay? Did you have an add-on question about masking? Because you mentioned something about black and
Yes,
white.
that will happen, for example, if you have the image, you have the background of the image,
Mm-hmm.
but there's a solid color,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to add extra room and copy the same color that is in the background.
Okay.
So basically, if I need to copy the same color.
In other words, you're removing some part of the background, okay?
Yeah. So suppose you remove a third of the image, and you just keep the section of the computer, and you want the rest of the image, the third of the image, you want it all in one solid color.
Okay. I'm just going to do a really bad lasso removal of the background here, okay? All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the background. I'm going to use a mask,
Okay.
all right? Oh, and now I need to invert it, Control-I, okay? So now what I've done is I've used the mask to remove from view a section of the background, okay? And because it is a mask, I can go ahead and edit this mask just by using a brush tool, all right? Oops. The brush tool. Let me make my brush size smaller. Okay. All right, so if I paint black, all right, so think of it this way. You have a piece of black construction paper and you put it over your image, all right? You cannot see that image below that black piece of construction paper, all right? But if we cut it out, a section, and remove that, we can see through it. All right, that's basically a mask. All right, and in this case, what's happening is that black is acting like a transparency. All right, it's telling Photoshop that anything that we paint on that mask that is black, oops, wrong one. Make sure your mask is selected. All right, so look here, make sure that your mask is selected. All right, and what you'll notice is that when you select your mask, it'll have these little white corners. Okay, so you don't want your image selected. See how the image has the white corners now? All right, make sure your mask is selected. So now if I paint on it, anywhere that I paint black is just going to erase it. All right. So this allows me to go in, and if I wanted to, I can work on my mask to refine it, all right, in areas that need a refinement, all right, especially if you use like an auto masking tool, all right, where it's using Adobe Sensei, like subject select. Sometimes it doesn't quite do a perfect job. You need to go in and modify it. Okay, so you can go ahead and just paint black. If you make a mistake, you just switch to a white, all right, and you can clean it up. You can also use degrees of opacity, all right, by using something other than black or white. So if I decide to use like for example, a middle gray, so if I put in 50%, all right, which is my middle gray, and if I swipe, what it does is it does a 50% transparency. So it's allowing some of the image to come through, some not, okay? And this comes in handy when you want to build up a certain edge, all right? Usually like around the hair. I'll put the transparency at like 10%, and I can build up my edges that way, all right? But just to keep it simple, we're going to do black and white, all right? So now we have our selection. I want to say, okay, I want to apply a color, okay? If it is a solid color, the easiest way to do it is with a solid color adjustment layer, okay? Click on solid color adjustment, and you're going to get a color picker, all right? You want to just pick, you know, whatever color you want, all right? I'm just going to pick something a little bit of, let's go with this kind of teal there, all right? And now I have it above my image. What I need to do now is drop it below my image, okay? And when I do that, now it becomes my background, all right? And the nice thing about it is that because I'm using a solid color adjustment layer, all right, if I decide that I want to expand, come on, if I want to expand beyond, let's say I want to expand outward from my original image size, okay, it will automatically fill in that space.
There you go.
Okay. Where you run into problems is if you have a layer that is already rasterized. So for example, let me bring that back down. I create a solid color adjustment, all right, and I can right click on that, and I can tell it to rasterize my layer, rasterize the layer, okay? And what that's going to do is it's going to make it a typical pixel layer, okay? if I double click on it, I can no longer choose what color I can pick, all right, because it's kind of locked in. So now if I expand this outward, all right, and hit OK, now my background does not expand with it. Okay, so this is probably the situation you found yourself. So now I gotta say, okay, I need to fill in that empty area. All right, and one of the easiest ways to do it is you use your color picker. All right, and what I normally do is I will use the Alt key. All right, so let's go to my brush. You can use brush. You can use any of the fill tools. All right, I usually go to the brush. If I press and hold my Alt key, it becomes my color picker. Okay, and if I click on it, all right, this ring pops up. Right, the top part of the top half is the color you're picking. The bottom half was the color that you originally had. All right, so I pick it, and now you notice that my foreground color is now that teal blue green, that bluish color, right? Okay, now that that's selected, okay, I can just hit the Alt Delete and it will fill that entire layer with that color.
I see.
Okay, it's a little bit of a long way to do it. I'm a big fan of the solid color adjustment simply because it is scalable. All right, and if you don't like that color, all you got to do is double click on it and it allows you to pick whatever color you want. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and delete that one, pick a solid color, all right, drop it behind so it comes through. Now I can just double click and say, okay, I want this, you know, kind of like pink color. Okay, and modify it that way. Okay, hopefully that answers your question.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
All righty. All right. One thing I notice is when you expand your canvas, it leaves like this half pixel edge around your original mask. All right. Okay. Good question. All right, any other questions? Bill's kind of, oh, Brian joined us. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I mean, I know how to use the noise reduction tool in Lightroom, but I shot some performance the other night, and my Olympus at 60, and I just put it on auto ISO, and it went for 6400, and so the photos come out sort of noisy, but when I denoise them in Lightroom and get them so they're not noisy, then they look a little muddy. And so, I mean, I'm wondering, I know there's some plugins out there that people like to use. I don't know how you handle situations like that.
Yeah, it really is dependent on what the final use of the images are. Obviously, the more noise that you capture, yeah, you got your work cut out for you. All right. The one thing that I've noticed, though, is that unless you are creating a print for sale, like an art print or something for competition, most people don't care. All right, they're not going to look at your image and go, oh man, this guy's a terrible photographer. Look at all this noise. That's one thing I never hear. So, but the thing is, All right, to answer your question, let me go over to Lightroom. All right. The one thing with the noise feature, and it's a little bit of noise here. All right, not bad. What was I shooting this at? ISO 800. Okay, so noise isn't too bad. All right, but if we go to details, noise reduction, you have a variety of sliders. Okay, and the luminance slider is the one that really kind of does the changing. The higher you go with that luminance slider, the smoother the noise reduction becomes. All right, let's see if I can, okay. Let me find, yeah, I think right here. All right, so let me set that back. All right, hopefully you guys can see the grain there. I zoomed in pretty tight. Okay, when we start bringing the luminance slider up, okay, we can see that it's doing like a blur within the pixel on a per pixel level. All right, and it's blurring the neighboring one pixel to its neighbor and adjusting it that way in order for it to blend. But what happens is if you go too far, all right, we get this nice, beautiful, noiseless image, all right? But when we zoom out and we look at our detail, all right, like for example, here in the hair, there is no detail, all right, simply because, we've taken it too far, all right? So one thing that we can do is we can use our contrast slider and our detail slider, okay, to kind of pull that back, but you're only going to pull back so much, okay? So it becomes a matter of kind of adjusting accordingly to your image, all right? Now, one thing that you can use within these tools is the Alt key, all right? If you press and hold the Alt key with these tools, you notice that as I start making my adjustment, all right, let me zoom in here, okay? As I start making my adjustment, let me reset this, my adjustments. When I press and hold the Alt key and I start making an adjustment on any of these sliders, it removes the color, all right? And this kind of takes away that color influence from your eyes in order for you to really see what the image is doing, all right? So you can kind of see when you've pushed it too far, all right? So that's a helpful tool that might help some people, all right? But in conjunction with that, let me go to 200 here, all right? In conjunction with that, you also have the sharpening, all right? So you can add sharpening, all right? But now, if you add too much sharpening, what it's actually doing is it's sharpening all that noise, all right? So obviously, if you use the denoise, all right, to get rid of that noise and it over blurs it, if you try using the sharpening tool, it's just bringing that noise back and a lot more contrasty and nasty, okay? However, we can control where we're applying that masking. All right, and that's done with the masking slider. All right, this one right here. Okay, and again, if you hold, press and hold the Alt key, when you move that slider, it's going to, let me zoom out so you can see. It's going to now start looking at edges. It's going to look for edges based on color contrast, based on exposure contrasts. Okay.
Are you holding the Alt key
I'm,
right now?
I'm holding the Alt key. All right. And as you slide it, all right, so all the way to the left, it's literally grabbing the entire image and applying no masking whatsoever. All the way to the right, it's just grabbing the more obvious edges. All right. So what you want to do is just find that sweet spot. All right, where it's just getting the majority of the edges. All right, and what's going to do is it's going to bring back some of that edge sharpness. Okay, but you have to be careful. All right, and then of course, if you play with the radius is how far from each pixel it goes out. All right, and if you press and hold the Alt key, you can see how if you start going out, you can see that edge getting darker. All right, that's applying the most amount of sharpening there, but you're starting to get a halo. All right, and now I have it all the way to the right. Now you get this nasty halo around everything. All right, it doesn't look too bad. You can kind of see it here. All right, so you have to be careful, you know, with that. All right, so it's just a matter of kind of playing with those tools to find the sweet spot where you're reducing enough of the noise without muddying it too much. Okay. Now, this is just within Lightroom. Okay. Now from here, I can go ahead and take this image. I'm going to go ahead and open it up in Photoshop. Let's go over to Photoshop. All right. And I can apply a sharpening on here as well. And one of the ones that I like the best, is my high pass sharpen. All right, which I have, you know, a little action. And what this does is it just that mask that actually, let me go back to Lightroom. When you're playing with the detail and you press the Alt key, all right, see how it turns that gray? This is basically what high pass is doing. All right, it's creating a middle gray and it's kind of detecting the edges. All right, so if I apply a high pass, let me go ahead and make that Control J, make a duplicate, high pass, run my action. All right, what this allows me to do is I can play around with the radius just like we did in Lightroom. All right, but this is now applying it on top of everything that Lightroom did. Okay, of course, the higher you go, the more of the edge is going to get sharpened, but you're also now looking to get that halo, which you want to avoid. So you want to keep it where you're just getting those edges. All right, and each image is going to be different. All right, but I find around 2 to 4 pixel radius tends to work really, really well. All right, so we're going to keep it to that. And what it does is it changes the blend mode to overlay. All right. And now we can see if we turn it off. I don't know if, let me zoom in here. Oops. Okay. That's with it off. Turn it back on. You can notice that there is a little bit of sharpening. All right. We're picking up a little bit of noise, mostly in like these shadow edges. All right. But here in the center, it's not as bad. Okay. So we're regaining a little bit of that sharpening. Okay. And, you know, unfortunately, there's no 100% way of removing it without losing detail. All right. It's just you want to minimize it so that it's not obvious without losing your detail. So that would be my recommendation. Okay. But yeah, just remember, press and hold the Alt key. It allows you to pre-visualize it. Okay. Awesome.
All else fails, I just make it into a super grainy black and white.
There you go. It's art.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, it's also part of pre-planning your shoot. If you know that you want to create an art piece, something that you really want to work on to produce and sell, or something that you want, you know, really high class for a photo competition, then you want to shoot in a more optimal situation. You don't want to limit yourself all at the very beginning just by shooting in bad light. You know, unfortunately, for a lot of the normal stuff that we shoot, we can't control that. You know, if we're doing a live event, we really have no control over the lighting, right? And most people understand that, you know, so noise isn't the image killer that a lot of people think. So.
Hey, Doug.
Yes, ma'am.
I have another question.
Yep.
Is Adobe Color a different application that we need to open, or is it something that we can pin in within Photoshop?
So Adobe Color is just a color space.
I know there is an application that you can bring, but it opens as a different application.
Oh.
Is that something that you can pin to have within Photoshop without the need of opening Adobe Color?
I've never heard of Adobe Color as an application.
But I'm able to open Adobe Color like in a different window. You know?
From Photoshop?
Actually, you just open a second window and you just go online and Adobe Color. But I haven't seen it within the application of Photoshop. I was just curious to see if it's Adobe Color within the application of Photoshop.
Yeah, I
Adobe
don't.
Color basically gives you. It suggests the color family that your image is.
Oh.
It's like a palette generator.
Okay, I gotcha.
But it strikes me like we always have to open it as a second entity in the computer rather than having it as a tool
Yeah, this is a supplementary tool. It's an online tool. Um, this is basically designed for is created for designers who are looking, like, for example, Brian is a web designer and he's tasked with, designing a website for a company. And he says, well, in order to create the website, I need to pick some colors. Okay. And let's say we're going to go with a triad color. And the principal color for the company is, maybe this color blue. All right. So what this does is it uses the color triangle, all right, to pick colors in a triad. So along with that, he may say, okay, I'm going to use this kind of like coral color as my accent piece, and this, lime green color as a, exclamation piece. Okay. All this does is it gives you reference based on a color that you pick, all right, what the complementary color is, what a split complementary color is, all right. That's all it does, okay? For a photographer, where would this come into play? If you are color grading your image and you say, okay, well, I want to create a mood that is very cinematic, all right? And I have an image that is, kind of like a dusk image. So I know that maybe I want to use a complementary color. So I have my my color A here. That's going to represent the overall mood for, like, for example, my background. Okay. So everything's kind of like this moonlit blue wash color. All right. So now the complement to that, meaning the opposite color on the color wheel to that, is this golden color. All right. So I'm going to make a note of this color, and you can see that right here, it gives you your color code. You can now copy that color code, bring it over to Photoshop, and say, okay, I want my subject to have this color cast. All right. And then you can create an overlay using that color that only affects the subject. All right. So the skin tone will get, you use your color blends, you would do a color cast onto your subject skin tone, and because they're opposites of each other on a color wheel, now we know that it's going to work in harmony. And unfortunately, I do not have an image because I haven't brought my entire catalog over. It's not like I have an image that I can use to show you that example. Yeah, see this. Okay.
Well, actually, this image has a lot of orange and browns and grays.
Yep.
And blacks.
Yep. All right. So, okay. So let me bring it over. Let's get creative. Let's get creative.
Doug,
Yeah.
about this picture, I come up with pictures like this sometimes, and they're just, like she just said, they're orange.
Yes.
How do we get rid of that?
Okay. All right. Let me. Let's see. No, I don't want to save it. Let me just go ahead and.
I know how to hold a camera camera light or what?
Brian got me a customer for headshots, and he helped me during the photo shoot, and this is him being a voice activated light stand.
Good idea.
Okay, so what's that?
That's going on my resume.
That's going all right. All right. So here's the problem. We have this kind of like orangey wall that whatever light hits it, it's going to change the color of the light bouncing back. All right. And it's going to, anything that gets lit by that reflection is going to be that color. All right. So the first thing we can do is within Lightroom, we can take a look at our color temperature. All right. And one thing that I normally look for is I will look for something within the image that I know should be a neutral color, whether that neutral color is white or a light gray, but something that I know is going to be a neutral color. All right. So there's a lot of papers on the desk here. All right. So even though we're in shadow, I know that should be a fairly neutral color. All right. So I'm going to take my color picker, all right, my little eyedropper, okay, and I'm going to go ahead and select here. All right. And if you noticed, the color temperature shifted. All right. So now this, because I picked it and told it that this should be neutral with no color bias, it removes that color bias. It basically takes the the red, the green, and the blue channel and aligns them. Okay. So let's zoom out. Okay. And now we see something that's a little bit more realistic. We've gotten rid of that really nasty orange cast. Okay. All right. So that would be my first step, either in Lightroom or you can do it in Adobe Camera Raw just before you open it up in Photoshop. Okay. And this is going to normalize your image. All right. If you've never heard that term before, I use it quite a lot. It's one of the things that I use Lightroom for before I take it into Photoshop is I use it to normalize my image. All right. So the other thing that I might do here in order to prep it for export is I'll go over to my transform tool and I will click on this little kind of like tic-tac-toe symbol here. And I'm going to go and I'm going to find my verticals and I'm going to draw a vertical there. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to find a vertical here. All right. And I'm basically dropping a couple of reference lines. So now once that I let go, it's going to take those two and make them parallel to each other up and down. Okay. So I've now corrected for my lens. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and open this up in Photoshop. I'm a big fan of shortcut keys. Control E will bring it over to Photoshop. And there we go. My new computer, so nice. Look how fast that went.
Yes.
Oh my God. Oh my God. It's computer is a long time coming. I'm so glad I spent the money on it. All right. So now let's get creative. I want to say, all right, you know what? Brian is kind of lost here. with this. He's wearing brown. He's in a brown room, brown desk, brown walls. All right. So, everybody else is wearing dark clothing, lots of shadows. So let's make Brian stand out a little bit. Okay. So one thing I might do is I might say, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and select his shirt. All right. I'm just going to pick his shirt. All right. And the way I did it is I just used this quick selection tool here. Okay. I don't know if you can see it right up here. All right. And if you notice, all right, it's selected a little bit more than what I want. Okay. So a couple ways you can deal with this. One, you can go ahead and pick your normal lasso tool and go ahead and put it on subtract, and you can go ahead and remove the areas that you don't want, or because I'm going to be creating a mask from this, I can go ahead and just keep going, make my mask, and then make my alterations in the mask. All right. So it really is dependent on what your comfort level is. All right. But I'm just going to use the lasso tool. I'm going to make a very quick selection here. All right. Good. And now I am going to make an adjustment. All right, and in this case, I'm going to do my hue saturation. All right, and when I click on that, it creates a mask. If I press and hold the Alt Option key for you Mac people and click on my mask, that's what my mask looks like. Okay. Now, again, because I'm working with a mask, I can go ahead and clean up any edges that I find are terrible. All right. So right now the mask is selected. I'm going to go ahead and select the hue saturation, and then I have my tools. I can go ahead and click on colorize, and now I can go over to, let's go to my color wheel. All right. We have kind of like this orangey brown color for our background. All right. Here's our complementary color. It's this kind of like light blue color. All right. So I can take that if I want to. Take that 7A, 7BFO. Come back over here. All right. And put it into, I can't, right? 7B70, okay. And I can't, all right, no, I can't. I thought there was a way of picking it, but I can't. All right. But what I can do is I have kind of like, I put it here. All right. I'm going to create a new layer. With a brush, I'm just going to paint. All right. And that's just my reference. All right. Temporary reference. I'm going to go back to my hue saturation. Okay. And what I want to do is I'm just going to manipulate that blue. All right.
Hey, Doug,
yes.
would it be possible to put it in the numbers? Like on the slide, when you move the slide on the colors, there's some numbers. Can you put the number there?
Not here that I know of. I know there is a way with curves adjustment, which I'll show you in a second. But this one, I just basically eyeball it. Okay. All right, and there we go. So now we have a blue color. All right, and then I can go ahead and delete that. Let's see, what do we want? Oh, come on. Okay. And now we have a complementary color for his shirt. Okay. Now, all I did was I shifted the color of his shirt, and all of a sudden we noticed that he just kind of pops. All right. Now, the shadow area is a little bit lost here. All right. So if I zoom in, notice that the shadow area isn't as dark as the original. All right. So now what I can do is I can double click on that. Brings up my blend dialog box, and I can say, all right, I'm just going to blend the shadows in, all right, a little bit just to darken them in. Okay, and we got our shadows back. Okay, just using a blend if. All right, so now it looks like Brian is wearing a blue shirt. Okay, so now he stands out just with this little bit. He stands out from his surroundings because he's the only one, other than the little calendar behind him, that's it. He's that complementary color. Okay, makes sense? All right, so this is a simple technique of how you can use that color palette. Okay, now let's turn that off. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to bring my adjustment, and I'm going to create a curves adjustment. Okay. Let me. I painted in my sample color. Okay. Let me zoom in here. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to copy that. Okay. So now I have my curves adjustment. Okay. Let me make this a little larger here. Okay. Oops. What'd I do? Adjustments. There we go. Okay. Make sure you are not on the mask. All right, you have to be on the tool itself. All right, on the tool. So you have to make sure that those little white brackets are around the tool. Okay. I am going to take my mid-tone. All right, I have 3 eyedroppers. I have my darks, my mid-tones, and my lights. I'm going to go to the mid-tone. I'm going to double click. All right. Come on. Why isn't it not? Oh.
It's doing something because the tools on the top are moving.
Yeah, it's oh, there it is. All right. So now I can either punch in that number, all right, that I had earlier, right down here, okay? Right there, right? Mm-hmm. Or I can go to this little sample swash that I painted there, and if I click on it, it's going to bring me to that color. Okay? So now what I've told Photoshop here is that this is the target that I want you to go to. All right? So this is our target color. Okay? We're going to hit OK, and it's going to come up with a little dialog box. It's going to ask you, all right, if you want to save the target color as a default. I don't want to save it as a default. Okay, because now every time you, from here on, every time you open up the curves adjustment, is going to give it that default. All right, so avoid that. Okay, now I have to tell what color do I want to change to that target color. So I'm going to go to the shirt and I'm going to pick what I consider the true tone color of the shirt. So something that's not in shadow and something that's not, brightly lit. All right. In this case, there's really nothing that's really brightly lit. So we just find a color that is very representative of the shirt. Okay. And I'm going to click on it. And it's going to create this really, really bizarre color. All right. From here, we can either apply a blend mode. Okay. Usually like an overlay. Okay. Now it's mixing in with the luminosity that's below it, okay? Or we can go to color, all right? What we're doing is we're changing the color, all right? But again, we're losing the highlights and shadows, all right? Now from here, we can adjust the fill, all right? Or opacity. But remember that when you make it less opaque, we're actually allowing the underlying color to come through. Okay. So in this case, I think I'm going to go with overlay. All right. And if I need to modify the color, which I probably will, I'm just going to take that blue color, oops, and just kind of bring it down. All right. Go back to my RGB and lighten it up. All right. Okay. All right. And then from here, yeah, let's see. Lighten, screen. Yeah, screen actually works better. All right. Double click. Brings up my layer style. All right, I'm gonna go to the shadows, and I'm just gonna underlying. Oh, wait a minute, I'm on the wrong layer. I should be on my curves layer here. Double click. There we go. All right, and if I pull back, I'm going to use the Alt key to split it, all right? And if I pull back, it brings some of that shadows back in, all right? And if I bring it in a little bit away, it's bringing those shadows in, all right? And you can also do that with the highlights, but like I said, there weren't really any highlights there, so it doesn't really matter in that respect, okay? Okay, and then we can hide that. Bring this back over here. Okay. And go 0. All right. And now Brian has a blue shirt again. All right. So there's a couple ways you can really add color to your image. Okay. Another way you can do it, we can go ahead and create a solid color adjustment layer. I'm going to go ahead and punch in that color that we got, right? Hit OK. Change my blend mode. All right. Let's see. Overlay usually works really well for this one. Okay. And then now what I can do is I'm going to invert my mask, Control I. Okay. And if I use a brush, okay, my brush, I'm going to make it nice and large and nice and soft. All right. White as my foreground color. And this is terrible, terrible mask. All right. All right. I can do spot color adjustment. All right. This is a bad image to do this for. This works better like with landscapes. But what this does is you're not recoloring like we did with the shirt, but we're adding a color influence over the image, okay? And of course, you would be careful with how you paint, all right? And here we have, he now has a blue cast to him, all right? All right. I won't use this effect for this image, obviously, but that's the technique that you can use, okay? And the nice thing is, because I'm using, again, I'm using that color adjustment layer, I can double click and I can make that any color that I want. Okay. All right. Any questions with any of those?
I like the blue-green version of that shirt. Can you 3D print that for me?
That one?
Yeah, can you 3D print that?
Very nice.
Sure, no problem. Yeah, so the colorize is one way of changing one color into another, all right? And of course, if you wanted to get really fancy, you can go ahead and say, you know, we're going to make Brian's outfit, you know, color coordinated, all right? And you don't have to necessarily pick the same blue, but you can pick something similar. All right, let me go ahead and... I'm sorry, what?
Monigote.
Oh.
¿Estás en casa? Monigote.
You talking to your pet? Ah, doggy. Ah, I see. Okay, so there we selected the shirt kind of roughly. You get you know what I mean, right? Obviously, you're gonna want to get very precise. Okay. Gonna go to our adjustments, hue, saturation. All right, and we're gonna pick colorize. We're gonna pick a
Bueno, estás diciendo pura tontería. Entonces, ¿qué quieres? ¿Que hable por teléfono?
Leah, your microphone's open. I don't know if you understand, if you know that.
Pero yo no sé pedir disculpas.
I think she's on the phone.
Amiga, está hablando en español y el micrófono está abierto para sigue llorando.
All right. There we go. All right, I muted her, so now he has color coordinated tops. All right, and then we would do the same thing with the pants. Okay, and now because he's, you know, all blue, all right, he would really stand out from the environment because he is the complement of his environment. Okay.
Can you move that speed light to his left arm? That one's getting really tired. tired.
Sure, no problem. Ready? Oh, wait a minute. Wrong one. Where are we? I gotta unlock. There. Now it's in here. Of course, I didn't flip anything else, but now it's in your other hand. Okay. Enough silliness. All right, any questions about any of those techniques? Coloring techniques. All right. I wish I had my library of sample images. I'd pull up a landscape to really show you how the last one with the color fill, how you can really change the moods of an image, but we'll save that for next time. So, transferring files is a bitch, let me tell you. It's slow. It's a slow process. All right. Any other questions?
I don't know right whether it comes into the Lightroom or a Photoshop or somewhere coming into that. I think I mentioned last time, I've come across a bunch of old black and white snapshots from the mid-40s, and they're small, 3 by 2. So I was thinking of when I've scanned things before, and sometimes when you scan, you have to work on a magazine, you have to worry about almost the grain of the picture coming through. I mean, yeah, the grain of the print. So I'm just wondering if there's any ideas, like if I bring something in that small, I'm going to want to make it bigger, so I think, so that I can end up with maybe an 8 by 10 or something. So is there things I can do on the import of the scan, or just to scan it as high as I can and then work on fixing that stuff up after the fact?
Yeah, 2 by 3, you said? Like literally business card size?
It may be 3 by 4.
3 by 4? All right. Well, physics is physics.
Right.
There's only so much you can do. When you're taking something that's small and you're enlarging it, you're going to enlarge every single flaw. And one of the things that you're going to enlarge is any blur, any softness, anything that's not ultra sharp. So what happens is when something has a little bit of blur on a 3 by 4, when you blow it up to an 8 by 10, that blur is really noticeable. Okay. The other thing is you're taking an analog object that has history. It's been, sitting in drawers. It's collected dust. It's been exposed to light. The colors may have, dulled out a little bit. You also have a lot of surface dust and scratches that, when we look at a print, we kind of see beyond that. But once it's scanned and you open it up large, you see every single little speck, and it just kind of screams at you. So there's only so much you can do, and then at that point, you have to ask yourself, how much time do I want to, give to the restoration of a particular image, because you can spend hours just on dust and scratch removal. And it's painstaking because there is no magic tool that allows you to just click a button and poof, it magically disappears. You know, it doesn't work that way.
My money back.
So the first thing you can do is when you scan it, all right, you will, instead of scanning at 100%, all right, I would say scan at 200%. And what that's going to do is it's going to upscale right at the scanner. Okay. Most scanners don't have any kind of sharpening. It's whatever they see, it's, you know, whatever it is. All right. But another option, I've gotten results with it, is that I will scan it at whatever the highest percentage you can. All right, I had a scanner once that scanned it at 1600%. Okay, you can scan it at a higher rate, all right, which is going to give you a monstrous size. But if you're coming off from, you know, a 2x3, it's not going to be, hopefully it won't be too unmanageable, all right? And then once you bring it into Photoshop, immediately reduce it down to the size that you need. You know, in your case, you said 8x10, all right? Reduce it down. That may give you enough of the sharpening effect, because you're taking, you know, something that was scanned large and you're immediately reducing it down. So you're going to gain that sharpening. You're going to gain that contrast, you know, and see if that works for you. Okay. Like I said, I've had mixed results with it. It is very dependent on the quality of the original. All right. But the one thing it's not going to do anything about is the dust and scratch. That you just either deal with it and say, hey, that's how the print was and I'm okay with it, or you can say, well, I'm gonna go in and I'm just gonna tackle the big stuff, the ones that are like really obvious, and any little stuff I'm just gonna leave it and, you know, deal with it. Okay. Or you can say, you know what, this is this image is one that really I just want to be as best as I possibly can, and then you just spend a couple days retouching it to the best of your ability and get it as best as you can. You know, it's time consuming. So you have options.
Well, actually, with the things you said, I actually have a lot of experience doing this. Way back when, you know, you mentioned this up thing. I once scanned in an image, and I think I said it's a. Let's see what happens if I put it at 1600 DPI. You know.
Yep.
And that was Photoshop 5, so like.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So no, I'm just. But the other thing I think I may have going for me with this little project is that a lot of those old pictures were actually contact prints. So
oh.
Pretty clear, you know, from the beginning. But you know, when you blow them up, something's gonna happen. But,
Yeah.
I guess it just sort of leads into another kind of a wondering about. But I've seen these things come on my Facebook feed. Oh, there's some new AI softwares out there. They say, we'll take your old photo and, you know, they'll just wipe it into, you know, they clear it up somehow or other. And supposedly AI is doing this. Have you bumped into any of these things or seen them or know if they work or not?
AI is the catchphrase of the 22nd century, 21st century. Um, that's where everybody's moving to. Yeah, some have better results than others. I don't have a lot of experience with some of those. I know Luminar has some AI tools that are way better than Photoshop. I know as far as noise reduction, there are a few that are better than Photoshop or Lightroom as well. Also, there are some AI that will upscale your image. And what they do is they use AI to analyze the edges of all the images, and where edges have a little bit of that fuzziness, it kind of uses artificial intelligence to not only reduce the edge blur, all right, but it also sharpens it, and to some extent just kind of like redraws it. Mixed results. Obviously, it's dependent on how good the AI is and how well it recognizes what it is that it's cleaning up. I know most of them are working very, very hard at facial recognition, but I don't know if anybody's ever noticed that, like, for example, this is just an example. With Lightroom, there is a skin tone selector. Unfortunately, that skin tone selector is very racist.
No.
It is. It only recognizes Caucasian skin. It's terrible. Terrible. It has hard time with darker skin tones. And you're going to find that also with AIs, all right? It is only as good as the information that gets fed into the AI. And for a lot of the photo retouching, the majority of the stuff that they're feeding into it is portraiture stuff. So a lot of glamour, a lot of, beautiful eyelashes and flawless skin tones. So if it doesn't fit that mold, the AI is going to have a hard time dealing with it. So if you're a pet photographer, guess what? It's not going to do you very good, So, AI has its spot, but it's still at its very infancy. So,
I have one last add-on question to that, because this little project this isn't a heavy duty. It's kind of something because it's my girlfriend and her cousin, when they were 5 years old. On the other hand, I have some old negatives, and I think we talked about this before, but if I were wanting to get some negatives scanned so that I could do something with them, where's the best place to go to get them? Can I take it down to Milford Photo, or is it?
Yeah, they scan. I think they use a Flatbed Scanner. Okay. When it comes with scanning technologies, there's 3 levels. One, you can buy an attachment that goes onto your camera, all right, and you can actually scan it using your camera. All right, you just load it in, it's backlit, and you're basically taking a photograph of the negative. You then bring it into, Photoshop, you invert the colors, and now you have a positive, all right? But that's as far as that's going to go, okay? And then from there, you are basically working on a JPEG, all right? Even though it's a raw file, it doesn't have the nuances of taking a raw file out in the wild. You're actually a raw file of a flat 2-dimensional image. So in essence, it's a JPEG. All right. The second one is, the Flatbed Scanner. And all that is just like any regular scanner that you see out on the market. You open the lid, you place the negative, it gets put on a special carrier that has a backlight built into it. And then, it scans it and you can resize it from there. Okay. Depending on the quality of the scanner, you can get really, really good scans from that. But if you really want the top of the line, you go with a drum scanner. All right.
What?
A drum scanner. Okay. And what they do is it's literally a drum, and they put your negative on the drum, and the drum spins, and there's an optical reader that travels along, and as it goes by, it scans each pixel, okay? And you're going to get the truest representation from a drum scanner, okay? But that kind of scanning tends to be a little bit pricier than a flatbed scanner.
Who does that kind of stuff?
There are a couple of scanning houses. There was one I was reading about a month ago. I can't remember them off the top of my head, but I'll look it up and I'll send it to you. And they offer either flatbed or drum scanning. Okay. I wouldn't send your normal everyday snaps for drum scanning. You probably don't need it. All right. As a matter of fact, I would say if you have a lot of negatives, invest in a little scanner that attaches to your camera and scan them that way. And then as you're scanning them, when you come across one that you really want, all right, because it's easier to see once you scan it, it's easier to see it as a positive and enlarged on your screen than, holding it like this or looking through a loop. Okay. Once you've scanned them with your camera, you can say, this one, I definitely, I want a better quality scan. And at that point, you can say, I want to send it to a flatbed scanner, or I'm going to send it out to get a drum scan. All right. But to spend, if you got a lot of negatives, to spend that kind of money on just scanning alone, I won't recommend it.
You know the blues? You follow the blues at all, Duck?
No. The what?
The blues. Music.
Oh, blues. Some, yes.
Yeah. There's a singer out there. His name was Howlin' Wolf.
Howlin' Wolf.
And I took he is legendary in the blues world. And in 1972, I took pictures at a small concert in the basement of our college. And I'm not patting myself on the back, but a couple of them are freaking iconic.
Okay.
I mean, if you ever saw Howlin' Wolf, and so that's in this case, I got 5 or 6 of them, but yet I want them to go to when I get around to it, I want to go to the absolute best I can get.
Right.
For this particular thing that I've been thinking about for 50 years.
Right.
Anyway.
Well, if you can identify the ones that are deserving of a high-end scan, then yeah, by all means, give Milford a photo a call and ask them what their rates are.
They've got one down there, or they
I believe so. I believe they just have a flat scanner. I don't think they have a drum scanner.
All right. Thank you.
All right. But in the meantime, I'll look up that scanning house. That's literally what they do is they they're actually a film developing company. And as part of their service, they scan the negatives for their clients. So you can send a roll in, they'll develop the roll, and then they'll scan it. And they have a couple of top-end flat scanners, and they have this awesome drum scanner. I think it's like a Fuji drum scanner or something like that. But I'll look it up. I'll send it to you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? We have a few minutes left.
Well, this might be, I mean, maybe a little off topic, but what's your experience with any favorites or recommendations on user-friendly website building platforms or tools?
Oh, guess who is here? Mr. Brian Thompson, who is a web developer.
Wow. Who knew?
He can probably, all right. He and I share very similar philosophies, and I know what he's going to say, and I know he knows what I'm going to say, and that is WordPress.
Really?
Yep. Brian, take it away. You're muted.
Oh.
You're muted, buddy.
Yeah, you're muted, Brian. Okay.
I am a WordPress guy, but if you're not technical and you're just getting into this and you just need something,
Yep.
there's this thing out there called Squarespace.
Yep. Yep. Looked at it.
There's also something called Wix. But the more and more I hear about it, if you're going to go between Wix and Squarespace, go to Squarespace.
Oh, okay.
There's also something called Weebly out there.
Right. Weebly, a lot of people like that for pretty simple.
That thing, it's a piece of crap.
Yeah.
In the WordPress world, there's a big new development going on where there's this, well, just give you a quick thing on WordPress. It's an open source type of software, which means it's free.
Right.
So anybody can download it, and it runs on, and there's different themes that you put on it, and it gives you its look and feel, and then there's things called plugins, which extends its capability. So, and typically you have to get some hosting, and then you put it up on there. What's come along now, just in the last couple weeks, there's a very popular theme builder out there called Elementor, and they've just started with they've got a cloud-based service now. So it looks like they're kind of blurring the edges between, what's a Wix and a Squarespace and what's a WordPress. So, having said all that, though, I will say that if you're looking.
Oh, we lost your sound.
Yeah, we lost you.
Brian, your sound dropped out.
Brian, we can't hear you.
Oh no!
Oh no! We lost Brian. His mic crept out.
Guess so.
Oh,
Oh, there you are.
I saw a message come by and said my internet was unstable.
Oh.
I'm on my Chromebook right now. Anyway, what I was saying was that the nice thing about WordPress is it is the most widely used platform on the internet.
Yeah.
8 million sites are powered by it, largest sites. So that means that if you are not really technically inclined and you're looking for some help, you can swing a dead cat and hit about 20 WordPress developers. They're everywhere.
Yeah.
So that's what I like about it. If you're just playing around, you can go get yourself some hosting for like $15 a month. And then if you feel like teaching yourself, most hosting things, you can click. It's usually a one-click install and get going with it.
Right.
But if you're going to go the WordPress route, I can tell you, it wouldn't be good in this little forum here, but I'd be more than glad to chit-chat with you about free themes and free that kind of stuff and hosting to stay away from if you're looking at it, because there's a lot of choices with that kind of stuff. So.
Cool. I ran into something today, which when I was poking around, and I got the impression it was almost like some kind of a plugin or a builder, or maybe it's what the hosting was that you were talking about. It was like $5 or $6 a month, but they were going to build on a WordPress site. It was like something that I had not encountered before, because I've heard that before, that WordPress is a little more technical than some of the other ones, as far as if it's like a newbie like myself.
There are some things to do, but you can learn it to get in there, but it sounds like they were selling. Now you can, if you want to just try it out, WordPress has a free website. It's called WordPress.com. And you can go there and register a site, and you'll be markt.wordpress.com, and you can get a pretty good look at what it's like, how from there. And the only thing, the other version that's self-hosted, as they call it, it's got some more capabilities and things you can do. And I think you can even take your WordPress.com site and turn that into a regular site, because they're in that business now too.
Sure, imagine. Good, thanks. Yeah. How can I get a hold of you to talk more about this? And can I afford you?
Well, I'm cheap to talk to, and if you were going to hire me, I'm probably the most reasonable guy in town. I got to do something about that, but no, we can chit. I don't mind. I love talking about this stuff, but if you want to just chit chat, and I won't mind. You say I'm going to go down and talk to this other guy and do it, or I'm going to do it myself.
No.
If you want to look at a good WordPress site, go to northavencamera.club.com. Jill Coulter, who's usually on these calls on a Monday, manages that. She's a WordPress expert too.
Mm-hmm.
Just if you want to get some ideas.
Okay.
Thanks. The president of your club, Parisi?
Laura Parisi, yes.
She's also I did a site for her about 5-6 years ago. She's the president of the Italian American Historical Society of Connecticut.
Yes, she is.
And that's how I found out about the North Haven Club. Was through her.
Wow.
Yeah, and me personally, what I use is SmugMug.
Right.
Because what I'm doing is I need a site that allows me to host images for my clients to be able to download. So SmugMug is specifically designed to set up galleries, photo galleries. All right. The problem with SmugMug is all the tools are designed to showcase photos, not much else beyond that. Okay. So it's frustrating because I also have a lot of information for my clients. And it becomes kind of like, all right, how do I find a workaround to what I want to do? For example, one of the things that I would love to be able to do is have a place where you can click and download a PDF with all the instructions on it. Let's say you're looking to get headshots for your company. All right. I have all the information on my website, but there's no way that I can host a PDF on SmugMug without paying extra for that service. All right. So what I do is I put it on Dropbox, and I have a link to Dropbox. So there are workarounds, but as far as websites is concerned, it's fairly decent. If what you're looking to do is sell your images, SmugMug is great because all you got to do is upload your images, set your price, and then SmugMug will send that image to whatever print house you want, whether it's White's or something else. They handle the printing and ship it to the client. SmugMug handles all the money, and then they take their cut out of it. They pay whites out of it, and you get the rest. The problem with that is it's a premium service. So you're paying, top dollar to SmugMug for that. So not only are you paying top dollar, for the hosting, but they're getting a cut out of it as well. By hosting it yourself on, a site like WordPress, you can get a plugin like Photocraty. I believe Photocraty, I believe, is the plugin. It's a suite of tools. You obviously you pay for that suite of tools, but it sets up a merchant interface, right? And then you can link that yourself to a supplier like White's, and then people come to your site. They say, I want to buy this as an 8x10. That gets sent to White's. White's does the rest of the stuff, and now you can set your own price. White's takes their cut out of it, the shipping and all that, and then you get the remainder. So it all really is dependent on what you're looking to do with it.
Hey, Brian,
Yes.
for easy stuff, for a WordPress alternative, you mentioned Squarespace, Wix, and Weebly, but you prefer Squarespace. Is that because it's a better e-commerce site than Wix and Weebly?
I don't know, but I do know haven't worked extensively with either of them. I just heard what other people have said when they work with them, and I do know that they are different platforms. And just what I'm hearing is that Squarespace is the better one. I think their e-commerce thing is pretty good, as a matter of fact. I haven't compared to WooCommerce, which is a WordPress thing.
Yeah.
You guys look at that, yeah.
If I remember correctly, Squarespace and Shopify work very well together.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Shopify is another one. I'm not sure if it integrates well with, some, a print house like White's. I haven't really delved that deep into it, but Shopify is literally just strictly for selling stuff. Okay.
Right. I know somebody who's a craftsperson who uses that.
Right.
I think the sort of the combination that I'm shooting for is to possibly sell prints, but also services like headshots, portraits, that sort of thing. So some of each.
Yeah. Okay. So now if you're selling images, all right, a site like Squarespace or Shopify may serve you well, especially if you do your own printing. Okay. And now, even though I say you do your own printing, that doesn't necessarily mean you do them in-house.
Right.
All right. You can very simply send them to Milford Photo, all right, which is local, and you can say, okay, I need this printed, and you can observe the quality and check everything, and you have kind of like a hands-on interaction with it, all right? So the order comes into you. You receive the order instead of being sent out to, some anonymous house. Right, you get the order in, and then it's up to you to fulfill that order. All right. So you then send, you have your master file. You say, okay, this person wants this image. This is the master file. I send the master file to Milford Photo. They print it on whatever paper you're selling. all right, whether it's, you know, a silver print or high gloss or you know, a high clay content or a watercolor paper, whatever it is you're selling for that particular print. All right. And because you have that hands-on, you can custom create your listings. All right. So you can say, all right, I know that this particular landscape works really looks beautiful on a cold press watercolor. Okay. And maybe it's a giclée print. Okay. So now you can say, okay, these are the sizes that it's available. These are the papers that it's available. All right. They choose whatever it is, and then you just say, hey, Milford Photo, I need this print, you know, this size on this paper. All right. And because you're working with their paper stock, you're good to go. Okay. Then they print it out, usually, you know, within a couple business days. You then bring it, you know, pick it up, stuff it in a tube, slap the label on, mail it off, email a confirmation, and, you know, it takes what? Maybe in total a half hour of your time?
Sure.
You know? So it's not like fulfilling your order yourself is a deal breaker. You know, I can see if somebody's, you know, super super busy, where they say, you know, I'm out in the field doing photography, you know, 40 hours out of the week. All right. Well, at that point, hire a teenager to do that order fulfillment. You know, get your grandkids in there. All right. You want to earn money? Here you go. Here's a job for you. Okay. There are ways of doing it. All right. So at that point, you can go with Squarespace. You can go with a Shopify account, okay? Because they're very easy to set up and integrate with, all right? And the learning curve's a lot lower.
Right.
When it gets into WordPress, then it's, you know, okay, what plugin works best for this? And there's a, you know, a lot of exploratory work, okay? And that's where somebody like Brian can come in to help and say, hey, you know, this is the idea. You're more familiar with the products. You know, what do you recommend? All right.
Yep.
And then he can go in and set it up. Then all he's got to do is teach you how to use that one particular feature, and then the rest is on you, you know? Now, as far as the other, like services, okay? I don't think you would necessarily be selling the services in a cart like that.
No.
You know?
No. I mean, it's just a matter of these are my rates and or examples of rates, and then you can contact me. And
right. Yeah. So you can have a page that's dedicated for your headshots, and you say, okay, this is my headshots page. This is what I offer. This is what you can expect.
Right.
Here's my contact information, or better yet, here's a form that you fill out your name, your phone number, your contact information, what you're looking for, and then you get a notification, because that's kind of how I have it set up. They fill out a form. All right, that kind of gives me all the information I need. Who are they? Where they're located? Who's the contact? What's their website? And what are they looking for? And when are they looking to do this? Okay, so all that is in a form. I get an email. Hey, you got this, you know, form. I look it up. I immediately get on the phone and say, hey, you know, thank you for contacting me. I understand you're looking for a headshot. They're already kind of like all their prerequisites are right there, you know, so you can go into your spiel, and they're pretty much sold at that point. Okay. And the rest is, you know, piece of cake, you know, scheduling and billing, you know, so.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
If you want to look at another site, Alan Kenzor, hold on a second.
Yeah, I've seen
Alan
his
Kenzier.
his is just sort of a gallery site primarily.
Yeah.
Right, he's using SmugRug, and
That's right.
I just went out to, and I'm not trying to take business away from Brian, I just want to show you, what your choices are. I do my prints with Ross Imaging, which his website is ctprints.com. And I just looked to see who his vendor is or website developer is or whatever. And he uses gatherup.com. And I can't figure out if this is a company that makes a site for you or if this is a website that you make your own site. I can't figure that out. Gatherup.com and ctprints.com uses it. Ross Printing, the store is Ross Printing. He's in Hamden. He's very good.
Okay. Yeah, I talked to somebody who primarily does, I think, pretty large commercial jobs, and he was like, "Yeah, let's talk about this. I start at $5,000, and I'm like, wait, wait.
Oh yeah.
I'm not even going to make that much money in like 2 years probably. So, yeah, like that.
So, Mark, I got one last thing to add to this because you
Yeah.
guys bouncing Shopify around. Shopify and its big competitor is something called BigCommerce. And they're known as SaaS, software as a service. So if you go with Shopify, you really don't need Squarespace because Shopify has things you can put all that stuff in there. But whether you go with something like Shopify or not WooCommerce, but BigCommerce, you're going to run into close to that for a setup. The problem with commerce sites, they just take a long damn time to set up.
Yeah.
So you'll run into $4,000 or $5,000. Just getting going, and just so I worry about squaring business. If I'm to the point where if someone asks me if I do shopping carts and BigCommerce, I say no, but I know someone who does. But seriously, based on the conversations, what you're doing, I would take a hard look at Squarespace.
Okay. Yeah.
You can build it yourself. If you get jammed up, there's people out there that can build it for you for a reasonable price. And I know that Squarespace has built-in shopping cart and checkout. In fact, I was just on the space here, and they got a thing where they walk through and they go, what kind of site you building? And they got all this list. You pick on.
Right.
Yeah.
I've looked at a bunch of them, and I got jammed up on one, but I know that I guess they have a help chat line and that sort of thing. So I'll give it another go.
The other thing about for checking them out, like I was talking about WordPress, the nice thing about Squarespace, I believe, is you just have to register an account and you can get in there and build your site for free, and then you decide the same for me. Well, yeah, that's what you can do. I mean, you sign up and check it out and see if it's the way to go for you.
Sure.
Yeah.
But,
that's true. They have trials, I think.
Yeah, I've worked on a Squarespace site. It's very easy. You just can't do anything super fancy.
Yeah.
But most people don't need super fancy.
Right.
So.
Okay. Thanks.
Awesome.
All you guys looking at sites, a little trick. I'm not sure how you do it on a Mac, but if you're in a browser, if you go Control-U, it'll bring up the source code for that page.
Yeah, I use F12.
Yeah, whatever F12. Yeah.
F12 brings you all kinds of developer tools.
Oh, interesting.
And you can look at the source code, and usually you'll see if it's WordPress or Squarespace or or if it's bespoke. So I think Ross Imaging is a bespoke site. So, alrighty, guys. Awesome. Brian, make sure you give Mark your contact information so he can get a hold of you. So, awesome.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks, Doc.
All righty. Any other questions before we wrap it up? We're a little over time, but hey, No?
Can I give him my number by just putting it in the chat? Is that protocol okay?
I think you can chat directly to me through that, can't you?
Yeah, you can send it in the chat, yeah. Yeah, because chat won't be seen on the YouTube video.
Okay, so what did I do? Chat, okay, I just stick my phone number. Well, we'll stick my email in there.
There you go.
Okay.
I'd show you my site, but I've been working on it, redoing it since 2020.
All right.
Yeah, that's the one thing you're going to find, Mark, is that you're always going to be tweaking it. I'm always tweaking mine. I'm never happy.
I could identify with that, I'm sure.
I'm a small-time hobbyist, and I've done quite a bit of tweaking. Hey, Brian, if you've been doing this since 2020, you couldn't go anyplace in 2020, so it should have been done a long time ago.
I would mute this guy.
I was born to be a wise guy. I'm sorry.
Although I have found out that the best way to drum up new business is to tell the world you're going to work on your own website. That's really why I'm going to finish my website. I get 2 phone calls.
Yep.
Oh, right, of course.
Hey, you know what they say about the shoemaker's children?
Oh, yeah.
Yep, they're always going barefoot.
That's what I was thinking.
In fact, I had a client last week. She says, I was just looking at your website, and I go, oh, no. Please, you still want to hire me?
Yeah.
Okay. I got it, Brian. I got it.
All right, thanks, Mark.
Yeah, so reach out, if anything, he'll guide you. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate that.
Yeah, me too.
Thanks, Brian.
All righty, guys. Bonnie was awfully quiet today. I don't know if she was just kind of listening in the background.
I'm just listening. By the way, Jesse posted those classes you're talking about.
Oh, he did? Okay, good.
He sent out emails.
Okay, good. Because when I checked this morning, he hadn't posted them yet. So,
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know. All right. Yeah, I should probably grab those URLs and post them in the chat. But you all know how to get to the meetup.com, right? Yeah. Okay. All righty. Once again, just if you come across a topic that you would like to learn a little bit more about, especially something that can be developed into, either a live workshop or a Zoom session, just hit me up, because I'm looking. I can come up with something, but if it doesn't interest people, it's not worth my time. So I'd rather develop something that you guys want to hear or see. So let me know. Okay.
I like what Jesse's been doing. I mean, we're way past some of the things he's doing right now, but dial in for manual or doing aperture priority.
Yeah. Well, the problem that I'm seeing is that there is a little bit of attrition with some of the workshops, because the majority of the workshops that we present through Milford Photo are geared to either the novice or the beginner, not so much for somebody like you guys who have, a few years experience behind a camera and would like to take it to that next level. So understanding aperture priority is probably not the workshop that you guys want to see. Dial M for manual is probably not the workshop that you guys want to see. All right. But maybe there's something that's a little bit more advanced. All right. And so that's what I'm looking to do is bring something that's a little bit more advanced. All right. Like I did the going beyond the rule of thirds. Okay. That's not for the beginning photographer. That's for somebody who's, got a few years under their belt as far as photography goes. All right.
That was a good one.
And
that was a good one.
Yeah, it's always been very well received every time I give it. So if I can give you that kind of more advanced content, I'm all for it. But again, I don't want to develop something that people are going to go, no, I don't care about that. So
this wouldn't interest me, but it might interest other people. Light painting, but of course it has to be a dark.
Yeah, I'm actually thinking of putting a light painting workshop together. Probably something outdoors. So, yeah, okay. I'll have to look for some locations that will allow us to stay after dark without being kicked out.
Oh, I had that problem.
Yeah.
Did I tell you about what happened with Mid-Connecticut? Did I tell you that story?
I don't.
Anyways, I ran an event for what do you call it? Night Star. What do you call it? Night Trails, the Star Trails.
Oh, the Star Trail. Okay.
Yeah, somebody requested it, so I looked down at a calendar and figured out what was the darkest weekends in November that year. And earlier, I went to this place and I said to a person, "When does this park close?" "Oh, 9 o'clock. We're all right." And somebody came in there who was involved with the community garden there and said, "You're not supposed to be here after sundown." And the next thing I knew, 3 cop cars came.
Yeah.
So I did my crazy photographer routine. I said, "Oh, we're just taking pictures, we were told." And the cop said, "Okay, you guys can stay here till 7 o'clock."
Yeah. No, see, that's just it. You have to get, permissions from certain areas. So that's part of the process. But night photography, landscape photography with light painting is something that me personally, I want to do. And if we could do it in a group, that'd be so awesome.
You know what might work if you go to somebody who has a bar, knock on his door and say, "Hey, we'll give you photos," just like we've done with models. "Hey, we'll give you photos."
Yeah.
It's probably best to do a private property with an arrangement like that instead of going public. Get that.
Right. Yeah. It's just, spending the time and doing the scouting.
Yeah.
So, but all right. That's one to write down in my little list of ideas.
What the Camera Club did recently, they did that. They made an arrangement with the trolley museum.
Yeah, well, they do it quite often. So yeah, but trolley museum charges a fee, I believe, for.
It was a fee. Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. That's not a bad idea though. Maybe we'll do something there. So, okay, awesome. Any other ideas, just email me, text me, direct message me, phone me. You all know how to get a hold of me. All right. Thank you guys. Another awesome episode. Some great questions. No session next week, right? Or
What week?
Are we? What are we? Oh yeah. So next week is the last week of the month. So no session next week. We will meet the week after that. All right. Thank you once again. Be safe. Keep shooting. We'll catch you in 2 weeks.
Thanks, Doc.
Thanks. Thanks so much. Thank you, everybody.
You are welcome.
Thanks.
Good night.
Thank you for watching Learning Photography with Duck. Brought to you in association with Milford Photo, your local full-service camera store. Located in downtown Milford, Connecticut, Milford Photo offers you a personalized shopping experience. From the latest camera gear to printing and framing services. And, of course, educational workshops to teach you the finer aspects of photography. Don't forget to tell them Duck sent you.